In this video, we are going to create this animated accordion menu using React and Tailwind. When you click on a card, it gets expanded, and when you click on it again, it gets collapsed. I will be explaining every single line of code, so let's get into it. So to start the project, here I have my empty React project with Tailwind inside. First, I will make this div cover the entire page and make it a background. So minimum h screen, that means minimum height 100 VH. Let's turn this into a flex container and center the items. Let's set the width to 100% and create a background gradient to right from indigo 500 to sky 500. Inside this div, we are going to create another one, which is also going to be a flex container. So this was the background. Inside this div, we are going to create another div. This div is basically going to be a container for the cards that we are going to create. So let's make this one a flex container as well and change the flex direction to column. This will make the cards stack on top of each other. And also let's put some gap between them. Set the max width to medium, which means 28 rem. And let's set the margin left and margin right to auto. And for now, we are going to leave this empty. Once we create the accordion items and create the logic for expansion and collapsing, we are going to be displaying the accordion items inside this div. So right outside this function, first we need to create some data that we are going to display inside the accordion items. So let's create an array named accordion data. Inside this array, we're going to have 5 objects, and every single object is going to have 3 properties. It is going to be ID, the title, let's say accordion 1, and content. And the content is going to be a lorem text. Now we have one item. Let's copy this 4 more times. And now that we have the array with the data objects inside, we can create the accordion component. So right under this array, but still outside this function, we are going to create another component named accordion item. And this accordion item is going to be taking a couple of props, such as title, content is expanded, and on toggle. We are going to be using every single one of these props, and I will explain them in a second. So the function is going to return this div. And for the styling of this div, we are going to be using dynamic text. So let's open up a set of curly braces and use backticks. Background is going to be white, and it is going to have rounded corners, overflow hidden. So when you click on this card, it is going to get expanded, and we are going to be adding an icon that is going to have an animation as well. And we want to make everything look really smooth. So we are going to add a transition. Let's set the duration to 300. And if this card is expanded, we are going to set the maximum height to 96. And if it's not, we are going to keep it small, so maximum height 20. Inside this div, we are going to be displaying the title, an icon, and also the content coming from this array. First, we are going to put the title and the icon. So let's create a div. Justify between, because we want the title to be on the left and the icon to be on the right. And that means putting all the available space inside this container between them. Items start and padding 6. Cursor is going to be pointer when you hover over it, indicating that this is something clickable. So inside the div, we are going to be displaying the title. Let's make the text bigger and font bold. So outside this div, we're going to create another div for the content. We are going to be using dynamic text again. So open up a set of curly braces and use backticks. Padding on the x-axis is going to be 5 and padding at the bottom is going to be 5. Overflow hidden. Transition for the animation. Duration to 300. And same as before, when the card is expanded, we are going to set the opacity to 100%. And if it's not expanded, we are going to set the opacity to 0. That means when the card is expanded, we are going to be displaying the content coming from these objects. To finish the accordion item, we need to add a icon. To be able to add a icon, we are going to open this website called Box Icons. Let's click on Usage and scroll down. We are going to be using it as a font, so copy this link. Inside the project folder, find this index.html file and copy and paste it inside the head section. Let's go back into the app.jsx file. So right under this title, inside this div, we're gonna search for a chevron to right. Let's click on this one and copy the font, paste it inside. So as I mentioned earlier, we are going to apply a function to this. So we need to turn this into a dynamic text. We are going to make this icon bigger. We're going to copy and paste the same transition effect for the animation. And when the card is expanded, we are going to rotate this icon by 90 degrees. And if the card is not expanded, it is going to stay the same. And with this done, the accordion item is ready. So going back inside this div, we are going to be displaying the accordion items, but we are not going to be creating 5 accordion items. Instead, we are going to open up a set of curly braces and we are going to map over the accordion data. And for every single item, we are going to use the accordion item component. As you can see, you can 5 items with the chevron icon inside, but we don't have the information inside this array yet because we didn't pass the props. And passing the prop means if we go back into this component, you can see that we have destructured some components that we used inside this component, such as the title, the content is expanded and on toggle. So right now, this component inside this app function has no idea any of these props, and we need to pass these props to this component. But first, we need to define a key. When you use the map function to render a list of items, React wants to uniquely identify each of the items. And in this case, we are going to be using item.id, which is the ID of these objects. And they are all unique, except this one. Let's turn this into 5. Also, we need to put these items inside this accordion item. And we are going to do it by using the spread operator, which means we basically create a copy of this array of items and we put it inside this accordion item. And now this accordion item knows about these objects. Next, we need to find a way to check if the item that you clicked on is already expanded or not. And that basically means we need to keep track of these accordion items to understand which one of them are expanded or not. And for that, we are going to be using useStateHook. Let's create a state variable named expandedID and a setter function called setExpandedID. So as you can see, my VS Code automatically imports useState. If that doesn't happen for you, you need to type this down. So we have created a state variable named expandedID and a setter function to update this expanded ID, we are going to use this state variable to keep track of the cards that you clicked on. And we are going to decide which one of them are expanded or not. And at the beginning, none of the cards are going to be expanded. So we are going to set this to null. So the current value of this state variable is null. To be able to use this state variable, we're going to create a click handler function called toggle expand. It is going to have one parameter, which is going to be the ID of the cards that you clicked on. Inside, we are going to use the set expanded ID setter function to check if the ID that you clicked on is inside this expanded ID. So if the IDs are matching, that means the card is expanded, and we are going to set it to null to collapse the card. And if the IDs doesn't match, we are going to expand the card and we are going to keep track of that ID. And in this way, using IDs, we can keep track of the cards that you clicked on and you not. Now let's use this function inside the accordion item. We are going to use isExpanded to check if the IDs are matching. So item.id. If the item that you clicked on has the matching ID as the expanded ID, that means the card is expanded. And we basically store that information inside this state variable. And using onToggle, we are going to call the toggle expand function. It is going to be taking the item.id as its argument. And the only thing left is to put this onToggle inside this div. This is basically where we have the title and the chevron icon. And we are going to call this function onClick. So when you click on the card, we are going to call the onToggle function. So let's see if everything is working fine. And when I click on the card, it gets expanded. It happens really smoothly and looks like everything is working fine. We have the chevron icon animation. The cards are opening and closing. So before we finish, let's do a quick recap of what we did. First, we created this background with the background gradients and centered this div. And inside this div, we map over the accordion data, which is this array of objects. And for every single object, we create a accordion item component. And inside the accordion item, we have some props such as title, content, isExpanded, and onToggle. And we use these props to display the title, to check if the card is expanded or not, and we also display the content. And also, using the onClick, we call this onToggle function inside the accordion item. We use onToggle to call this toggle expand function, which uses this setter function to basically keep track of the IDs of the cards that you clicked on. And in this way, we decide which one is going to be expanded and which one is going to be collapsed. So this is how we can create this accordion menu using React and Tailwind. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.